What if the scars of history could manifest as a creature of unimaginable destruction? Godzilla, the original kaiju, is far more than just a monster. It's a cultural artifact, a constantly evolving reflection of deep fears and anxieties. Over 7 decades and across 38 films, 33 from Japan and 5 from America, this iconic kaiju has been reborn, reimagined, and rebooted, each time offering a new lens through which to examine its era. The original 1954 Gojira is a masterpiece, a somber, black and white elegy that birthed not only the kaiju genre, but also tokusatsu, the Japanese filmmaking tradition celebrated for its mesmerizing practical effects. The film opens with an eerie silence, shattered by the chilling disappearance of a freighter at sea. This wasn't mere fiction. It was a haunting echo of the real-life tragedy of a Japanese fishing boat caught in the fallout of an American hydrogen bomb test just months prior to the film's production. Godzilla, an unstoppable, city-leveling force of nature, emerges from the depths, powered by, and a symbol of, the very atomic energy that devastated Hiroshima and Nagasaki less than a decade earlier. But I'd argue the metaphor runs deeper. Godzilla isn't just a symbol of atomic power. It embodies the specter of America itself, the sleeping giant that Japan, through its own actions, brought upon its shores. This complex relationship perhaps explains the creature's evolution in subsequent films, transitioning from a terrifying antagonist to a reluctant, if formidable, protector. Following the original, the Godzilla franchise became a chameleon, adapting to the shifting tides of popular culture. Spy movie tropes, far-out science fiction elements, a bewilderingly cute offspring designed to broaden the film's appeal to female audiences. Nothing was off limits if it promised box office success. These sequels, driven by commercial interests rather than thematic depth, eventually led to franchise fatigue. Then came 1984's The Return of Godzilla, a bold reboot that severed ties with the 15 increasingly outlandish sequels, returning Godzilla to its terrifying roots. This film, launching the darker Heisei era, treated the World War II trauma for Cold War anxieties and the looming threat of global annihilation. A rampaging monster attacking one city was no longer the primary concern. The real terror lay in the potential for this creature's existence to ignite a nuclear conflict between the superpowers, ending everything, everywhere, all at once. The cycle of reinvention continued, but let's focus on a few iterations that offer particularly compelling thematic insights. Godzilla Minus One, a recent and critically acclaimed retelling, transports us to the immediate aftermath of World War II. While the creature's design is undeniably terrifying, the film's heart lies in the human drama. We witness traumatized veterans and civilians grappling with the psychological scars of war. Kamikaze pilot Shishikima, for instance, wrestles with survivor's guilt, having fabricated technical issues to avoid his suicide mission. Narratively, this is all compelling. However, the film's core theme, veterans uniting to defend a helpless Japan against political inaction, is deeply problematic. Japanese militarists were responsible for plotting coups, terrorizing moderates, killing politicians, and dragging their nation into a devastating war, where the Imperial Japanese Army committed horrific atrocities. In 1947, the very year Godzilla -1 depicts a defenseless Japan, 30,000 Chinese civilians perished due to plagues weaponized by Japanese scientists and unleashed by the war criminals of Unit 731 after Japan's surrender. Beyond the incredibly tone-deaf portrayal of Japanese veterans as saviors against a backdrop of political apathy, the reality was that Japan was occupied by 500,000 Allied troops at this time. Any response to a kaiju threat would have undoubtedly fallen to these forces, not to a makeshift militia of recently disarmed and demobilized individuals following the unconditional surrender. In stark contrast, 2001's Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters at all-out attack, imagines Godzilla not merely as a mutated dinosaur, but as a supernatural entity, a vengeful manifestation of the souls lost to the Imperial Japanese Army's brutality in the Pacific War. Perhaps the most intriguing reimagining is 2016's Shin Godzilla. Set in the modern era, the ever-evolving monster becomes a metaphor for the Fukushima nuclear disaster. The film's true focus, however, is a razor-sharp, often hilarious satire of Japan's aging bureaucratic government and its paralyzing inability to confront a crisis. You might come for the giant lizard, but you'll stay for scenes of politicians endlessly adjourning meetings only to reconvene in identical configurations simply to avoid making any actual decisions. The 70th anniversary of the original Godzilla has just passed. The original film, along with the 84 reboot Return of Godzilla, are readily available on the Criterion Channel, alongside a wealth of other films from their respective eras. Shin Godzilla can be found on Blu-ray and occasionally surfaces on streaming platforms. As for Godzilla -1, it's currently streaming on Netflix, and Toho has announced that a sequel is in the works. I'd love to hear your perspective on any of these films. Share your thoughts in the comments below.